I just want to say thank you and welcome everybody. We have some special guests here tonight. And of course, Mary Jane Dolan, who is going to be presenting for the city. Welcome. We have Randy Nelson here, another member of City Council. Thank you very much for coming. Dan Sinclair, who is our state representative. Thank you very much. And tell Patrice we say hello. Bert Dotson, who apparently had to leave early. Thank you, Bert, for coming. Gary Christie, always good to see you, sir. Ben Blanks, who might have a future role on this board here. I want to welcome Ben. Miss Kelly Hitchcock. Oh, there she is. How are you today? Good to see you. Gary DePriest, sir, one of our committee members and leaders. And Philip Habithruther. Oh, jeez. Right next. One of the other developments between this year and last is the fact that my eyesight has really gone bad. And I have two pairs of glasses, and this one's supposed to be for readers, not for distance. But I'm glad you're here, too. Thank you very much. In welcoming everybody, I want to make a few remarks. And forgive me for reading directly and having this in my face. Again, my eyesight has unfortunately deteriorated. It's been an honor of mine for the past 10 years to be a member of this board. I started off completing an uncompleted term and then had three terms to complete at that point. But this last year had me think about something that you read in a number of different places. When you leave a place, make it a little bit better than the way you found it. And I feel very comfortable with the experiences that I've had with this board and these management individuals, the management team for First Transit, that is exactly what's happening. Over the years, the improvements of the GLTC have been amazing, and it's been an honor to be a part of that. The successes of 2019 have made Lynchburg a better place for everyone. Those who ride the bus out of necessity, as well as those who ride the bus out of choice. The contributions from state and federal sources and our local contract partners, combined with heightened scrutiny of expenses, provided a budget surplus of nearly $140,000. While funding sources and the criteria thereof are always in a state of flux and uncertainty, we continue with a positive and optimistic outlook for the future of GLTC. Our status of being one of the top transit companies in Virginia is due to our experienced drivers, our skillful maintenance workers, and our wise management staff. Thank you very much, Brian, for leading them. The finalization of our transit development plan and the recommended changes was well overdue. They were long in the making, and the system had not had a revamp to this level in over 30 years. And it was exciting to be part of such a pivotal role, pivotal change with the GLTC. Staff did an excellent job in analyzing and working through the changes with our clients and customers. During the public hearing to approve the changes, I was more than impressed by the overwhelming support from the public. About a dozen people out of the 40 plus in attendance provided public comment, and each one of them was very complimentary and appreciative of what we are doing and the changes we were about to undertake. This was very fulfilling, knowing that the work that we had done was going to positively impact so many and rely on the GLTC daily. Ben Blanks, who's most likely going to be a future board member, was pivotal in that role too. As a person who was a daily bus rider, he made a tremendous difference with the staff, with the board, and his constant contribution is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Ben. Weathering the federal government shutdown that we all experienced at the end of December, beginning of January, was along with other organizations across the country, felt the impact of a full government shutdown. This shutdown was the longest in our history, lasting 35 days. During that time, GLTC did not have access to federal funds, which account for approximately 30% of our operating budget. Through the diligent work of staff and monitoring expenses and the relationships with the many partners that we have, We were able to maintain a positive financial position without impact to customers or service on a daily basis. Making public transportation more affordable for everyone has always been the goal of the Board of Directors and management. And the discounted fare policy this year, which allows for a discounted rate for the bulk purchase of single ride tickets, was instrumental in making bus transit affordable for many more people. After hearing comments from community partners that were brought forward when the GLTC fares were restructured a few years ago, the board adopted to include the day pass. As an option, the discounted fare policy was also included. The inclusion of these passes, these changes, were major benefits for the community, as it allows individuals to utilize the same pass for an entire day, which allows organizations assisting individuals in need the ability to assist more individuals with the limited funds that they have available to them. Connecting communities. If you all remember the situation that happened along Florida Avenue and is in the progress along that corridor, the community and the GLTC had investigated the feasibility of rerouting service to connect two communities together through the use of our bus service. Staff worked to develop and push out a survey which would garner the input from the desired and those in need of the bus service connection. Through the survey, we learned about the travel patterns of many of our riders and found a majority of our passengers surveyed would benefit from the connection. And we are hopeful this service can become a reality and will support measures necessary to assist it along the way every day. Finally, I'd like to say thanks to all my board members, my fellow board members who have made this experience tremendous. This is my last board meeting, and I'm very happy to have had this experience with everyone here. Each and every year, the members of the board demonstrate their dedication to the city of Lynchburg and all the bus riders. They have often gone unnoticed. We try to acknowledge each and every one of the members of the board, as well as the volunteers on the committees, for whom or because of whom we would not be able to do the job without them. We have continued to benefit from the positive statewide and community partnerships with the Federal Transit Administration, Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, the City of Lynchburg, Liberty University, the University of Lynchburg, Central Virginia Community College, and many others, and most importantly, our riders who make it possible for us to continue along this way. This has been a great honor. I am humbled by the ability to lead the board, which in reality, being the board president was nothing more than just organizing or keeping us on focus during the meetings. The true expertise of this experience has been because of Brian Booth and his staff, and every single staff member that work for him and with him. And I just want to say thank you very much for making my experience here productive, or at least appear to be productive, when you did all the work. So thank you very much, Brian. And in consideration of approval of last year's minutes, and I'm sure everybody remembers on the board what we were doing about 12 months ago at this point in time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes. And second, I see that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Those opposed, like sign. Approved. The audit report, as I mentioned, we do not have Ms. Cook from Brown Edwards. We are going to push that along the way at least until she arrives. But right now I'd like to invite Ms. Dolan up to talk about our future board members.
Thank you, Christian. I'm sure the board is really going to miss you. You've done a fantastic job, and the city certainly appreciates all that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
So much. Okay. This is can you hear me? Okay, great. This is a pleasure to announce who is the future board members that City Council approved last night in our meeting. Curtis Baker, he's Centra Vice President. Ben Blanks, everybody's happy to have Ben come onto the board. Dan Dieter, Cameron Howe. There are still 2 vacant slots, which we are look to be filling as soon as we get applications that we approve of. So I thank you very much. Going off the board, I don't know, everybody knows John Hellawell is going off. Of course, Christian DePaul, Glenn McGrath, Peggy Whitaker, Christos Carroll, and Joe Morgan. That's it. Thank you very much. I guess you have to vote on this, or you don't? Okay.
You voted.
We voted. So you just take whatever we do. That's great. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations on your 45th year of service to the city of Lynchburg. Thank you.
Next, we have the general manager's report being presented by Brian Booth, our general manager.
And before I get started, I'll just say it wouldn't be public transit if something didn't go awry. We actually forgot to inform our accountant, I think Christian mentioned this, that we changed the location of the public meeting. So there we go. So I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Special thanks goes out to Sherry Gentry, our Customer Service Advisory Committee Chair, Gary DePriest, our ADA Chair, the members of the Central Virginia Planning District Commission, for all the work that they do, and then the hard work of my staff who seem to be sitting in the back. They must be afraid I'm going to call on them tonight. So, and the support that we have from the board as well as City Council. I know we've got a few retirees, so if you want to wave your hand if you've retired recently. Got 3 in our presence tonight, so we're glad that you all came to kind of hear the report out. So it's our 45th anniversary, and we have been celebrating all year long. We had started the year off with a lot of social media campaigns, recalling historical events that have happened, news articles, just important things that have happened along the way in the 45 years that we've been in existence. And I'll make a note, it's 45 years since the Greater Lynchburg Transit Company came about. It's not 45 years that public transit has been in Lynchburg. Public transit was in Lynchburg long before 1974, but 1974 was when the public transportation went from a private funded model to a publicly funded model. So just to clear up a little confusion there. We also set up an exhibit that I think Sherry helped with over the summer, which displayed some of the old articles that we had, some old equipment that we still had in storage, just to kind of reminisce on what it used to be and the equipment, and probably some of our retirees probably remember some of the equipment. And then this picture here is actually long about the 1990s, late 80s, early 90s. It is when the first Gillig buses were purchased and brought to Lynchburg, and that is the vehicle that makes up the majority of our fleet today. I've got a few more pictures here. I had to get Alan Roby, who is a longtime member of the GLTC staff, to help me with some of the information here. And this picture here is just a lineup of our drivers, I think in the late 80s, early 90s. And when you saw the picture, he was just rattling off the names of who they were like it was yesterday. Also have another picture. This again was in the late 80s, early 90s. Actually probably early 90s, because this here is a paratransit van, a converted Dodge 15-passenger van with a high roof that had some clunky lift on the back of it. And the reason I know it was the early 90s is because the Americans with Disabilities Act went into effect in 1991, which required that public transportation offer an auxiliary service that would meet the needs of individuals with disabilities. So we've come a long way from this clunky van to the body on chassis vehicles that we have now to assist our passengers with disabilities. This here is probably a picture in the 80s. This is a bus, I think Alan called it a neoplan. It is not a U.S. made bus. This was actually a bus that was made out of the country, and it was actually before the regulation from FTA to bring vehicles in and the Buy America Compliance Act there. And then this picture here is just a picture of one of the old fare boxes. James, do you remember this fare box here? Carol? This was before we got the electronic fare validating fare boxes. Coins and maybe dollar bills were accepted here. And then we had some old historical bus tickets and other articles on display that we had a week-long event in June that passengers could come through our station and look at some of the historical elements of GLTC. So looking at kind of our revenue sources for this past year, overall from 2018 to 2019, we did see a decrease in revenue of about 3.5%. The majority of that came from three sources that had some major fluctuations. Liberty University decreased about 13%, which was about $225,000. That was mainly due to that we provided less service for them. They've been looking to revamp their campus, and their overall master plan is for the campus to be more walkable. And so they've made great strides to that, so this was just a step in that direction. The state, we actually had an increase of 19%, which is about $329,000. A lot of that is due to performance metrics, having a previous fiscal year drop out of the performance goals, and then a new fiscal year coming in more recent. And then the federal also had a decrease of about 14%, which is about $320,000. And again, that is the same performance metrics of the state. We had some fiscal years that dropped off more further back, and then some more recent year came on, which the performance wasn't quite the same as the one that dropped off. But overall, we did have approximately a budget of $8 million in revenue, and our expenses were about $7.9 million, which did leave us a surplus of about $137,000 for the year. So we're happy to be able to finish out the year in a positive situation, and that $137,000 will go back to the city as a payable, so we will be putting that in here soon. And then our ridership, we did have a drop in ridership, approximately 2 million riders for the year, or just under 2 million riders for the year, and that was down about 13% from 2018, which equated to about 300,000 passengers. We had an 18% decrease in Liberty, which was about 269,000, and then of course Liberty's decrease was again due to the lesser service being provided on their campus. And then the city ridership did decrease about 34,000, which is a 4% decrease. And we saw a lot of that decrease happen in December when we changed the routes. A lot of what we focused on with those route changes was making the routes more efficient, having more direct service. So because we became more efficient, we didn't have to count people twice to take one trip. They were actually able to get on one bus at their origin and make their way to their destination without a transfer. So that's where a lot of the decrease in the city ridership has come from. So I wanted to talk about some major accomplishments. What Christian mentioned about the federal government shutdown, that was something that we did weather through, and we could not have made it without the partnerships that we had throughout that. It was 35 days long, and when 30% of your budget is made up of those funds and you're not able to access them, you can get in a pinch. Other systems in the United States were actually facing the decision of having to suspend service temporarily, and some actually did suspend service temporarily, but we were fortunate enough through three main entities, which I'll recognize here in just a second, to not have to do that here in Lynchburg. The first was the city of Lynchburg. The city does have a reserve account set up for us, and we were able to draw from that, which helped us get through that cash flow crunch that we had there. Liberty University. Liberty University typically has 45-day terms on any invoice that we submit to them. So we had just submitted an invoice, and I just picked up the phone and called our board member from Liberty and explained the situation, what we were in, and he worked his magic, and we had the check 2 days later. So, I mean, they completely took that 45-day window out of the picture for us. And then the last is the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, which Dan is here representing. Again, picked up the phone, explained to Patrice, who we typically have worked with in the past, what was going on, and she ran it up the chain, and they made a decision that this was something that could potentially be impacting everyone in the state, so they made the decision to release the scheduled quarterly payment about 40 days early, so that no one had to, at least that could be a stopgap during this shutdown. So extra special thanks goes out to those three entities for us to step up and really be able to help us through this situation here. So now let's talk about some fun stuff that's not related to money, but we did, the next item, and probably our most pivotal change, was revamping the route system. Christian mentioned that it had been over 30 years since we had seen a major change. The picture on the left is a picture from the public hearing where the board approved the changes, and again, I was blown away by just how positive the response was from those in attendance that were there, and the changes that we were looking forward to. And then this is the new map, system map of after the changes happened. And what it was is the connectivity in this area, the Wards Road, Timberlake, and Old Forest Road area has really been significantly improved. Previously, if you were in any area out this way, you had to make your way all the way back to the transfer station, which is kind of in the city core, transfer just to make your way back out. So that's been a major improvement there. The next item is that we've really been able to improve our brand image, our communication media, and this is just a screenshot of the front page of our website. The old website was very outdated, it looked old, it was tired, and just with the help of actually our ADA committee, we were able to give it a fresh look and make it ADA compliant for individuals that have visual impairments. One thing that we didn't know is just having an underscore under every word helps a screen reader read the text. So that was something that we learned in working with our ADA committee of how we can have the website so it's accessible to all. The next item is our rider's guide. I think the second week that I was here, Gary DePriest came to my office and was complaining how small the print was in the rider's guide. And that was 3 years ago. So one thing that we wanted to make sure when we did the route changes was that we took that into consideration, and we actually pretty much doubled the amount of space in the rider's guide so that there was room to make the text large enough that it was legible, as well as making the maps a lot clearer and larger for individuals to read when they were looking at our rider's guide. And then we had some statewide recognition. This is a picture of the Tri-Transit Week award ceremony that we held in, I believe it was October of 2018. And every year, partnering with Kelly at the TDM program, DRPT puts on a promotion in September called Tri-Transit. And the purpose of the promotion is to get individuals to sign up to use some form of alternative transportation. Get out of your car, ride the bus, ride a bike, walk, take a scooter. I mean, those here are on Liberty's campus now, so we may be seeing them in the city soon. But take some form of alternative transportation as opposed to driving your car. During that week, you can pledge to do that, and for each trip that you take on an alternative mode, you can log that trip, and that enters you in to win a prize. So we locally had a competition going on that we actually drew prizes every day for individuals that had registered or logged trips that day. And then Shannon Ray, who's the individual in the middle, she was actually the statewide winner of DRPT's Tri-Transit Week promotion, where all of the trips within the state of Virginia are put into a pot and pulled out to win that. And she won bus service in Lynchburg for a year, which was paid for through the promotion, and then also won 2 round-trip Amtrak tickets to anywhere in the Northeast Corridor. So she was very excited to be able to go visit some friends and family up in the New England area. And then the next kind of statewide recognition was Ben Blanks. Through the hard work that he did during our route changes leading up to it, we felt it was only appropriate to nominate him for this award. And Ben was kind of out in the front of that. He was coming and bringing me ideas before the consultants even told me that was a good idea. So, I mean, he was out there validating what the consultants were telling us, that with these changes. So we took the opportunity. The Virginia Transit Association every year has several different categories for awards that you can nominate for, and one of those is the the outstanding contribution by an individual. It's the only award that is eligible for someone who is a non-public transit employee entity, so someone from the general public can be nominated for that. So we took the opportunity to nominate him for that. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it to Hampton Roads, where the Virginia Transit Association's conference was, but I accepted it on his behalf there and then presented it to him at the following board meeting. So we're really excited to have that statewide recognition for Lynchburg. So looking ahead, some projects that we've got coming up. I know we've been talking about new buses, and we have placed the order that we're planning to receive new buses sometime next summer that we're looking at. It does take quite a while to build those. So we are looking at receiving 8 new buses, which will greatly assist with the fleet that we have that's aging. The next item is we're going to be looking at an updated paint scheme on them. We've done a lot of work in updating our website, our bus stop signs, our rider's guide. So we wanted to reflect that with some small changes on our buses. So right now, our buses are solid blue. So we're going to add this yellow wave, which is kind of characteristics within our logo. And then another comment that we had received was that the blue is just too dark and it's hard to see the bus at night. So we wanted to incorporate some white in there, which would make the bus a little bit more reflective and easier to see in the evening. So we will be rolling this out, and what we're planning to do is as we replace buses, we'll be putting this new paint scheme out. So we will have a mixed fleet for a little while until we're able to replace everything. So, but we're excited about that. Looking to improve the security systems at the transfer station. The transfer station has been open about 5 or 6 years now, and we've found that there is some limitations to the system that's currently there. So we do have some grants that are going to help us to install and add to the current system that's there, that's going to improve the safety and security of not only our personnel but the passengers that are at the station. We're also looking at select bus stops throughout the city. Philip and Gary worked really hard on a bus stop accessibility study, which inventoried every bus stop in the city of Lynchburg. And out of that report, it identified which stops were accessible, which ones were not accessible for ADA accommodations. And we've identified, of the 700 plus bus stops in the city, maybe a third of them are accessible. Yeah. And so of the 2/3 of the bus stops, we've identified 12 that we're looking at to make improvements to, working with the city and with the state in order to make those modifications. And that's going to be a longer term project because there's a lot of moving pieces to that, but that is something that we're excited and moving toward. Again, as always, we're going to continue our emphasis on customer service and safety. If we if we can't be nice to people and we can't get them there safely, then we're not doing a very good job at what we're doing. So that's one thing that we do want to make sure that we keep at the forefront. And then again, the commitment that we have to everyone in here as well as the city and residents, making sure that that's at our forefront as well. And lastly, I'd just like to thank everyone that's here. Thanking our passengers. We've got several passengers who do use our service regularly. Thank you all. Thanks to the City of Lynchburg and City Council for your support. All the GLTC staff. I'm just a figurehead up here running off at the mouth right now, but it's really the staff that does the heavy lifting here. Our board of directors for the oversight that they have for us and the guidance. First Transit for the support that they provide. Not only do I work for them, but I have a network that I can tap into of if we're having an issue, I can send it out and see if any other system across the United States that the First Transit property has experience with that and get the information and resources there. The Federal Transit Administration and the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation for the support and funding they provide. The PDC staff for the collaboration that we have in working with you all. And then our education partners, Liberty University, the Central Virginia Community College, and the University of Lynchburg. They're an integral part of not only providing some funding for us, but also providing ridership for the system. And lastly, just thank you all for being here. So if there's nothing else, I'll turn it back over to Christian.
Thank you again, Brian. Before we move on to our report, I owe a very big apology to Sherry Gentry. Again, I had my short distance glasses on and I didn't have my long distance glasses on. But Sherry has, over the years that I've known her, and she's been a committee member and a committee leader, her attendance to the GLTC board meetings was better than some of the board members. So I wanted to thank you for that, recognize you, and apologize in front of everybody for my failure to recognize you in the beginning. So thank you very much. And of course, the graciousness continues after it was discovered that we failed to let our accountant know that we changed the location of this meeting. She was gracious enough to still attend, so thank you very much. Our representative from Brown Edwards.
Good evening. I think you've already been, the reports have been passed out to you, so if we could start with the required communications with those charged with governance. And that just basically lets you know that management is responsible for the financial statements. And our responsibility as your auditor is to express an opinion on whether the financial statements are materially correct. You'll also note on the first page that we talk about accounting estimates, and for GLTC, that would be the useful lives of your capital assets and your other post-employment benefits liabilities. And that's based on an actuarial report that's provided to the company. And we use that as part of our report as well. Page 2, you'll notice corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We had no audit adjustments for this year, and we had no uncorrected misstatements. Okay. And if we can continue with the comments on internal control and other suggestions. We didn't identify any material weaknesses in our report this year. However, we do have 2 comments, and they're suggestions, they're not findings. You'll see on page 3 where we talk about adopting a succession plan for key employees. And there, we're just recommending that management look into adopting a plan for their key positions in the company, and this will assist in developing talent bench strength within the organization as people retire. And another comment was on the inventory of fluids. During our audit of the inventory, we noticed that the general ledger balances of the fluids did not agree to the RTA inventory report. We were notified by management that there had been some issues during the year with updating the usages, but they were able to use their VITA reports, and these are reports that are created based on the tracking of the fluids as they enter or exit each of the storage tanks. So they were still able to provide the correct figure for us during our audit. And we would just suggest that maybe you get with the software vendor for RTA and see if they can recommend anything that would help you in the future to get those totals correct in the RTA software as well. As far as prior year comments, last year we had noted a couple of checks that had used the check number twice on 2 different checks. We tested that again this year, and we didn't find any instances of that occurring again. We noted that management periodically receive the checks registers to ensure there are no more instances, and the accounts payable technician is also verifying that each check number agrees to the check number that's in your Great Plains software. And then the other items that are part of this report are just accounting and other matters, and we're just letting you know about new GASP pronouncements that are coming up. And then I think we also may have a bit of information regarding cybersecurity. And if you have any questions about that, we can get you in contact with some members of our team who do a lot of that type of work, and we can recommend you to someone if you would like further information. And now if we can look at the actual financial report. We issued an unmodified opinion on the statements this year. And our opinion is noted on page 2 of the report. And as you turn over to the basic financial statements, you'll note that your cash balance is slightly higher this year compared to the prior year, and that's due to you received that 5% that was withheld during fiscal year 18 from the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority. You now receive those funds during FY19. The federal and local capital grant funds, those have dropped from FY18, and that's because most of your projects were completed during FY18. Accounts payable, capital assets, that has dropped as well, and that's due to more timely submittal of invoices and payments. And the next page, we can look at our statement of revenues. Your operating revenues and operating expenses are relatively comparable to last year. As far as non-operating revenues, you'll note that your revenues from Liberty have decreased because those services have decreased during the year. Federal operating grant has decreased, and that again has to do with that 5% withholding that was reflected in FY18. The state of Virginia aid for public transportation, that has increased, and that's basically due to higher ridership metrics being met. And your capital contributions have decreased due to most projects being completed during FY18. After the financial statements are just notes that expand on the financial statements. And we've also added the required supplementary information in regards to your OPEB. That's on pages 19 and 20. And then regarding other supplementary information. That's just the detail of the schedule of the operating expenses for both years, FY19 and FY18. We break those down by operations, maintenance, and general and administration, so you can see the detail of the changes between the 2 years. And then last but not least, your compliance section. GLTC was in compliance with all federal programs. There's no findings in the federal programs. And we tested the transit operating assistance and capital grants. And again, the agency was a low-risk auditee for FY19. We had no financial statement findings and no findings related to the federal programs themselves. Any questions? Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Well, we've come to the point of our meeting where we open up the final portion to any remarks from our current board members or management staff. Not hearing any, I will make a motion for adjournment. If we have no, and a second. All of those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Then that passes. We are adjourned and hope to see you again next year.